everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. I'm here with another flip through from the Fairy Journal collection. This is the Scabious Fairy, and this book is a hand-painted vintage book. It has one of these beautiful cabinet card style fronts, which I'll show you a little more of in a moment, and it has a Cicely Mary Barker fairy here in this botanical style cabinet card, and around it I've tied some of my hand-dyed batik fabric, and on the spine you'll see here, actually maybe I will untie it for you. So there you go, you can get a look at the cabinet card. And then on the spine, we have this spine cover. It says, "This place belongs to some good fairy," and some stitching here. And we have an eyelet that's holding onto this fun spine dangle. And I did not hold back using some beautiful beads. You'll see some semi-precious gemstones, some shell and glass with gold beads, all different kinds of beads, some Swarovski crystals. Yeah, it's just a sweet little spine dangle. This is a chunky journal. It is actually 2, 4, 6 signatures. I couldn't remember how many I put in this one. And you'll see all sorts of beaded head pins on the edges here sticking out of this journal. These are all hand beaded by me. And there's laces, and there are flowers and all sorts of things out the side. On the back we have an eyelet. And the eyelet holds on to that fabric so that you don't lose your tie. And then we have some decoupage down here, and it says "Probably the Fairy" with some leaves. And you'll see bits and bobs of fairy dust. There's iridescent paint. So there's sort of 3 or 4 purples that come out in different shades of the light. So let's jump into this book, this chunky book. Okay. So when you open it up, this journal is similar to the others in how I've presented the opening. So this one has a hidden spine, and this is a beautiful paper. There's scrapbook paper that I've used here in the background. We've added a pocket, an Ex Libris label, and I've, like the other books, used an authentic 1950s photograph of this beautiful lady standing here with all these flowers, and I've added some fairy wings to her, and it says "Flower Fairies of the Wayside," and that's from the original book, and I've stitched that label on. Inside the pocket we have the Throated Warblers from a vintage bird field guide, and that just tucks on in there. And on this side we have a pocket made from the Cicely Mary Barker Fairyopolis book. It's on this sparkling fairy paper, which I've used throughout this series. This is an iridescent sparkly paper that's locally made. And I've added this fairy journal card that is collaged and has some watercolor, some decoupage. And then I've stitched a tab on the side with these little beaded flowers. These are vintage. And then this little head pin. Then we have here some washi tape, and this is cabbage dyed paper with a little fabric flip with a little fairy here on like a pin cushion. And oops, little thread there. So I'm gonna take that little thread off. There we go. I want to leave it too long. Okay. Then on this side we have some of the story of this sweet little deer. So this is from a book about how, a mother deer will have her baby just kind of wait in the forest for her. If there's danger afoot, they'll just kind of curl up like this and hide. "Mama said to wait right here," whispered the fawn. "She will come back." And we have a cardinal here. "Aha, so you're the lost babe in the woods," announced the cardinal. "I'll use my red color and fly through the treetops, signaling for help." "I'm not lost," said the fawn, not looking up at all. "She will come. She said she would." We have a little mushroom down here on some tea-dyed paper, ribbon stitched along the bottom. This is the Tree Wisdom card from the Fairy Tarot deck. And this is a public domain image that has been printed and coffee dyed. It's just this, I forget the name of the photographer, but it's these little girls that were photographed with these little fairies out in the woods, and it's just a kind of fun rustic piece of ephemera. This is the Slow Fairy. It's a Barker fairy. And then some stenciling on avocado dyed paper here as well. This is from Teal and Tattered's fairy kit. Discover the Flickering World, tea-dyed paper with some fabric, a little Barker Fairy pocket on this fun pansy vintage gift wrap, and I've added a vellum butterfly wing tag here that's collage with some fairies. And then on this side we have a fabric flip, what is a fairy, and then some little fairy wings here. And underneath we have a page from a fairy book that talks about their love for chocolate, and if you listen carefully you might hear fairies' laughter and song. This is avocado dyed paper. This is some very, maybe hard to see, but some really complex fairy art. Just beautiful, very busy page. And then this is some painted space on this beautiful fairy art. I have just to shut my eyes to go sailing through the skies, to go sailing far away to the pleasant land of play, to the fairyland afar where the little people are. Robert Louis Stevenson, The Little Land. More of this beautiful fairy art. Avocado paper, another book page from a fairy book. And on this side we have a little pocket here with these little fairy and these little bugs on more of that pansy paper, and then a little collage tag with a Cicely Mary Barker journal entry. And this is some of my hand spun yarn at the top. Some stenciling on dyed paper, more stenciling, another teal and tattered fairy page, tea-dyed paper with just some fabric down the side. And we have a little vintage mushroom card here. This is the Holly Fairy. Some stenciling. This is a little sort of tip out pocket. I caught a glimpse of something from the corner of my eye. Some kind of sparkling dust was scattered all over the window. I carefully gathered up what I could. And then we have a little oak leaf here. And this is a stitch card that holds on to some little bits of ephemera. So, a sunflower, this little chestnut fairy, and then writing space on back. And there's threads there if you can see them crisscrossed. Tea-dyed paper with a little bird and an egg. And then more of our story of that little fawn. And on this side, the sun climbed to a higher place in the sky, drying out the morning dew. The fawn stood alone in the tall shadowed woods. Stretch your legs to make them strong, but don't wander too far. Cabbage dyed paper, stenciling, more stenciling. This is some fairy paper here. It's the pink. And if you see a fairy ring, it's like a little booklet there, and stationary writing space on the back. And that just tips on here, and we clip it on with this rusty paper clip. The Christmas tree fairy with some fabric down the side and a beaded head pin. We have a Cicely Mary Barker journal entry here, and this is watercolor paper. And this is, if you saw my video about watercolor printing leaves in the rain, this is one of the prints, and I did some more metallic watercolors around and added this fairy. Cabbage dyed paper. This is a page from just a beautiful book of this leaf, and I added this little orange fabric tab. We have this moth over here. We have this Barker Fairy cluster. This is some fun gift wrap paper with mushrooms and acorns and leaves. The Protect Your Dreams tarot card from the Fairy Tarot. And this is like a little booklet. We have a little fairy here, kind of in, this is from a Japanese fairy story. And then inside we have just some little green and blue scraplet kind of papers in this little notebook. This is some fairy wing fabric. There's our little fawn and hiding in the woods. That page tips out. This side we have a red-winged blackbird saying, "Get up, get up, get up," shouted the red-winged blackbird. Cabbage dyed paper, pansy fairy, queen of the meadow. This is a coffee dyed grid page, and it has a ticket here. This is for the Horniman Museum. It's actually from the Cicely Mary Barker Fairyopolis book. This is some vintage gift wrap and a little bird coloring book page pocket. This is a page from a local author's book called Zelda and Esmeralda, and it's the story of this ginger-haired fairy and her friend, this Dragonfly, and it's all writing space on back, and that just tucks in there. And then we have this beautiful fairy here with this fire and this little fairy person, some fabric stitched down the side there, more of that vintage gift wrap, a little chipmunk stamp on some more of that coffee dyed grid paper. Actually, that's not coffee, I'm sorry, that's black walnut dye. Yellow dead nettle fairy, zinnia, this little frog on a mushroom with a snail on his head on cabbage dyed paper. Where did he come from? Should he be here? The goslings jabbered at the same time. Where's his mother? His ears are so big. Is he dangerous? Where is your mama? Hissed Mother Goose. That's more of that story about the little fawn. Fairy wing fabric, the fairy dance on a coffee dyed page. We have a little mushroom die cut here in gold. This is a little flower fairy postcard tuck. And inside we have this little vellum butterfly wing collage tag with a hummingbird and a little Lewis Carroll fairy verse there. And there's a moth back here from a book page. This is a root from the same book page, more cabbage dyed paper. It is said that the Tooth Fairy rewards children by replacing any teeth put under the pillow with a coin. This is some of my eco-printed fabric stitched on the side of the Crabapple Fairy page. This is some fairy paper with this beautiful fairy art just clipped up here. On this side we have a collaged tuck spot with some rainbow fairies by Eric Kincaid. This is a page from Teal and Tattered's fairy kit. Cabbage dyed paper, little bit of silk and a flower stitched up here with some fun threads. Botanical pocket with a piece of stationery from a book page about the flower fairies. Rose Bay Willow Herb Fairy. The Song of the Jack by the Hedge Fairy. Some black walnut dyed paper, and we have a bit of a leaf print there. She said she'd be back. She will, called out the startled fawn, turning toward the woods. That seemed larger and lonelier than before. Did I go too far? We have a thistle here. And this is a little verse about fairies. This is a gold page with a bit of very fine little floral lace stitched to the bottom. Stenciling. This is a little foresty page with a little fawn there, and it's got lots of oak leaves. It's a little tuck spot. We have another fairy verse down here and a little Shirley Barber fairy journal card. This is just some beautiful fairy art. Stenciling. Some stitched on lace on gold paper. Tea-dyed page with a little botanical there. A little fairy verse down here. Voices were silenced by the rising sun. And there's a water lilies. New life came to the woods before the sun touched the top of the trees. He slept quietly in the tall grass on the north edge of the meadow where the trees start the forest. And that's more of our little deer story. More black walnut dyed paper with an orange tab. Ground ivy fairy. The Song of the Agrimony Fairies. Some oak leaves and acorns on cabbage dyed paper. This is a Teal and Tattered fairy book page. Amity Bloom index card pocket with this beautiful iced fairy. More fairy paper. This is some handmade paper, and it's just beautiful. The texture's amazing. It's purple and has all these fine plant threads, and I've stitched purple flowers all down the side. Then on this side we have this, there's also a beaded pet head pin, and then on this side we have, this is a fabric flip with this little floral lace, this little seahorse fairy, and there's actually little fairies in these flowers on this page. So you can write your secrets under there. This is some stenciling of the word fae on some coffee dyed paper. A little foresty tuck spot with some lace up the side for these snow fairies. And then a holly fairy here on this green paper inside the New Beginnings tarot card from the Fairy Tarot. A little moth on cabbage dyed paper. Some of this crystal agate digital page. And we have a Shirley Barber fairy belly band with this sweet little fairy crying under a little mushroom, little journal card. Stenciling on coffee dyed paper. Just some fun raggy blue paper with some botanical, an orchid here. The air fairies, a little bit of info about them. This tips out. The fairy poet takes a sheet of moonbeam, silver white. His ink is dew from daisies sweet. His pen a point of light. Joyce Kilmer in Fairyland. This is about water fairies. This is cabbage dyed paper with a little woodland creatures collage here with some lace, and inside the envelope we have this little journal card, some strawberries and a bee and some mushrooms, and this is from a Shirley Barber fairy book, so that just tucks on in there and then folds right over this page, and this is a rusty paper clip to just keep it there. A little flower from a really beautiful book, some more of that book. Black walnut dyed paper with some vintage crochet lace. This is like a paper lace upper tuck with some botanicals here, and the paper in behind is some beautiful fairy art from a book, and this is a German page from a field guide of beautiful flowers. Beautiful fairy art. And then more of that same plasticky paper lace on some vintage gift wrap paper with a Warwick Castle rose large journal card that just tucks on up in here. This is more of the black walnut dyed paper. This is an index card from Amity Bloom I've used as a pocket. You see more of those florals back there. This is a little fairy envelope, and it's made inside of one of those little children's Valentine's envelopes. And this is a little Amity Bloom journal card that just fits on in there and then tucks in here. Another of the Amity Bloom tabbed pockets, and a little this is like a little index card with a tab, and it says a band of fairies, and we have this fairy and water lilies. Just plunk that in here. More cabbage dyed paper. This is from a fun fairy book, Fairy Creed, and it's blank on back and holds onto this journal card with this little bird here in a rainbow. And then some raggy blue paper that says fairy tale, and it's tea-dyed paper. Fairies are said to be responsible for putting silver coins in the boots of hardworking servants while they sleep. And this is a little tarot card that says moon energy from the Fairy Tarot. Mallow Fairy, this is a postcard, some digital paper. More of that beautiful agate crystal digital paper, some cabbage dyed paper, a green page with beautiful tulip lace down the side. Spread your wings and reach for the sky. Some stenciling here. Handmade paper with purple flowers stitched down the side. Fairy paper with some lace and a head pin that's been beaded. This is a cluster with a butterfly there that holds onto this card that I made. It says magic, and it has some lily of the valley from some vintage gift wrap paper, and it's a little card that just opens up here. Oopsies. There we go. It's just a little card for writing on. It's just a pretty purpley mauve color, and you could also write on the back. It has a bit of texture to it. It's like a linen paper. Some stenciling, cabbage dyed paper, the Song of the Sycamore Fairy, the Song of the Lime Tree Fairy. This is a Shirley Barber fairy tuck spot on black walnut dyed paper with a Barker fairy postcard. This is the Speedwell Fairy. And more from our little fawn book. And there he is with his mom. The fawn turned to look into the dark brown eyes of his mother. I knew you would come. Remember this, she said, licking his spotted coat smooth. He lifted his ears to listen to Mama's words once more. You are a newborn, born without a scent. some iridescent fabric here on some coffee dyed paper, or sorry, cabbage dyed, and a little die cut of a gold mushroom. This is some fairy art with an Amity Bloom pocket and a little pocket tag with a journal card. Another of those tabbed pockets. And this is from just a beautiful book page. We've got a mouse here and some foxglove, and on this side the mouse up in a tree. It's from a book called Mousekin, and it's like a really cute woodland creature kind of book. And I thought there's nice writing space on there. A magical touch that glows. Stenciling, some dyed paper with some fun shimmery fabric up top. This is a dragonfly. The spring frogs singing with 1,000 trilling. For those who protect wild places and care for wild things. Some more dyed paper. These are some butterfly stamps. The Flourish Tarot card from the Fairy Tarot. And this is just a fun rainbow postcard from Josie Lewis. More fairy art with this bunny. More cabbage dyed paper. More of our story about our fawn. We have a chickadee there and a raccoon over here. More black walnut dyed paper. Little fairy cluster with one of those fun index card journal cards. The Song of the Ash Tree Fairy. Another Barker Fairy. Cabbage dyed paper. Mushroom and flowers. Some fairy papers in green and blue. This side we have these Barker fairies and these beautiful botanicals. Or sorry, not Barker, Shirley Barber Fairy. And then on this side we have the rainbow fairies. So there's the story here, and on back it's just journaling space, and it just tucks onto this piece of fairy paper. More of the black walnut dyed paper with a little fairy stamp. Vellum that's printed in that agate. Music from the Fairy Tarot. It's a tuck spot with this Barker Fairy journal card. It's a postcard of the Plane Tree Fairy. Another upper tuck spot, and this is a page of like a beautiful floral calendar book, and it has thistles on it. Just a beautiful book page. Some of the fairy wing paper, or sorry, fabric, and then we have these little fairies with these Chinese lantern lights. A little triangular tuck spot with a coloring book page tag, and that's on some vintage gift wrap. Air fairies are known to whisper inspirational secrets in the wind to artists, writers, and musicians. This is another page from a fairy book here. Cabbage dyed paper. More of those little fairies with the Chinese lanterns. And this is a little sort of flip page. We have a fairy playing it looks like a stick that's kind of like a double sort of flute. More of the light fairies. Cabbage dyed paper. Another fairy, and a little cluster pocket with this sort of bookmark style journal card on some vintage gift wrap. More fairies. More of the fairy wing fabric. This is a book page. It says the fresh, wet, silent after time of rain. This is a little stamp. More of the vellum. And more black walnut dyed paper. This is a squirrel side tuck with some lace, and this is a journal card made from this vintage bird field guide page. And finally we reach the end, and inside this pocket, which says elves had flown away to play their tricks, we have more of that beautiful purple paper we saw at the front. We have the Canada Goose, well, the geese field guide page, but I see the Canada Goose, and this green butterfly. So these just both tuck on in here, like so. There we go. Then, let me see, did I put in the front? No, I didn't. So I will also add one of my little, my card and my little Cindy. Pop her in there. Okay, so that is the end of the Scabious Fairy Journal, and if you're seeing this video, I will be putting this up in my Etsy shop probably within the next 30 minutes if it's not already there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to subscribe if you like, you know, watching journal flip-throughs and seeing journals made. I try to film a few videos each week if I can, and I would love to see you here in the comments. So have a great day. You can find all my links down below in the description box. Bye for now. Oops, just one more little note. I noticed that one of these strings was bare. It had no beads. So I've just added this fun woodcut key to it. So I wanted to share that with you. Just another fun little thing that makes this journal special. Sorry for missing that one. Bye for now.